extension. Tom McClintock says this time Congress has to stand for something or they'll continue folding for anything. So, Congressman, what do you do now?
Well, the Senate now has two continuing resolutions to fund the government. They've got their pick. Unfortunately, that's beyond the control of the House. It's certainly not beyond the control of the American people.
So in 2 weeks, when we face this dilemma all over again, what would it take for you to go ahead and let the government keep operating, eventually raise the debt ceiling, get past this hump? What?
Well, we have to keep spending, or put spending back under control. The original continuing resolution was about $62 billion of actual spending reductions for this year. That's a long way from where we need to be. I mean, at that rate, we'll end up balancing the budget in about 15 years, and we certainly don't have 15 years.
What was this Kabuki theater for today, then? What did you guys do?
Well,
I've had diets longer than that.
No, this is prorated cuts for 2 weeks. Again, $62 billion, roughly $2 billion a week for the rest of the fiscal year.
No, I understand that, Congressman, but obviously
$4 billion.
someone thought this 2 weeks would buy time, that something would change or the needle would move in these 2 weeks that otherwise would not have happened. Am I right or wrong or what?
Yeah, that now gives the Senate 2 more weeks to deliberate over the continuing resolution that the House sent them 2 weeks ago.
And then what? If they don't act on that, and many of them have already said, to me at least, that they're not too keen on that, then we're going to go right back into a pickle again, right?
Well, we're going to have a big conversation among the American people over the size of this government. Remember, since 2008, federal spending's increased by about 24%. The big continuing resolution cut spending $62 billion. That's about 1.5%. So all of this fuss and fury is over a 1.5% cut after a period of 24% growth since 2008. That's hardly a radical proposition. And as I said, it frankly doesn't go far enough. Much of the heavy lifting is going to have to be done during the budget deliberations for the 2012 budget, and that's going to have to include entitlement spending.
That was very well explained, Congressman. Even I got that. Could I step back from this a little bit, sir, and get your sense of, I think it was the Treasury put out a statement today, that this bumping against the debt ceiling has moved back a little bit from around April 5th, more ironically, to like April 15th, tax day. Now, I know these are moving targets that would be akin to some of us at home discovering we had an uncashed check that we hadn't known, or that there was more money in the till than we appreciated, or that our ongoing expenses would be a little bit less than we thought. Bottom line, that day of doom, as some are calling it, pushed back, at least as Treasury sees it, by 10 days. Did that change the math in any way for you in these discussions going forward in the House, later in the Senate?
No, I mean, ultimately, the debt's going to have to be dealt with. And the movable deadline on the debt is much more flexible than that, because as you point out, once you run your savings account dry, well, then you start looking around, you find all sorts of other little pots of money in accounts, and you can prioritize. That's what the federal government will be doing once it hits that debt ceiling. So there's probably another 3 or 4, maybe even 6 weeks of breathing room there before we actually can no longer write checks.
Congressman, thanks for taking the time to speak with us.
My pleasure, Neil. Thanks for having me.
Now to the